What's on, people? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another video. Just before I start, I just want to say I appreciate each and every one of you that watches these videos. I've been getting some really good feedback from you guys who've been watching consistently, saying that you've learned a lot and I'm putting some good stuff out there, which, is really, really good to hear from me. I really just do this for a little bit of fun. I just want to give a little bit of value out there, take you guys along the journey with me as I try and figure things out. And getting messages like that and getting some feedback, it's just great. It just solidifies why I do this even more. So appreciate you watching first and foremost. It's the 25th of August. Hair's growing in a little bit, just had a fresh trim. Usually, if you don't know me, I buzz it off, but I thought I would grow it in a little bit and see what it looks like. We've just finished, I finished a podcast the other week. I did a podcast with my mate Luke Sartor, and it went live a few days ago. It's really cool to be able to watch yourself back. I mean, I record videos like this where I'm talking and I'll watch it back, but I'm sort of switched off and detached from that. But when you see yourself sat down in a podcast having a conversation with someone, it's really different. You notice different things about yourself, and I'll be honest, it took us it took us a good hour to try and settle and watch it properly. I kept on cringing and having to turn it off and then revisiting it again. But I'm actually quite happy with the way that the podcast turned out and the way that I conducted myself on it, the things that I talked about. I'm going to plug the podcast in the link in the description. We sat down, had a good chat, had a good yarn about loads of different things that we're both really passionate about. Stuff like high agency, which you've heard me talk about on my videos before. Things about being a fighter and sort of the expectations and how I deal with certain things when it comes to performing when I'm in the cage, like fear, like not being frozen, all them good things. If you're interested in hearing what I have to say about things like that, we'll talk a little bit about my past of rugby as well. Give it a little watch. I would appreciate it. I'll plug it in like I said, I'll plug it in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into what I wanted to talk about today. So in today's video, I really wanted to cover something that I've really started noticing more and more as the years have progressed, and that is the recovery and recomposition protocol for people, especially fighters who have just came out of competition, who've just had a fight, maybe just had a really high level jiu-jitsu match, because I feel like this is one of the things that's really, I guess, looked over when it comes to coming back into play. That sort of recovery, that recomposition, what you should be doing straight after a fight and a few weeks after, just to make sure that you're getting the most out of recovery and that you're able to get back into the gym as soon as possible, but also at full capacity as well. I really wanted to start talking about this because I've noticed that the past few fights I've had, I've actually gotten pretty ill just 1 week on, and I was really trying to pinpoint why I was getting ill, and I've sort of came to a conclusion of why it was happening. And after talking to a lot of fighters that I know, a lot of lads that I know, both amateur and professional, it seems to be quite a common thing. So I try to think, all right, what can we do? What protocol can we put together in order to help these guys get back to where they were at before the fight? I think a lot of guys just try and jump straight back into the lifestyle and the sort of training that they were doing just before the fight, which is a really big mistake. If you're thinking about these fights, even amateur MMA fights these days, they are huge. They're these big events and it requires a lot of training. You've got to be peaking in terms of your training. You've got to be peaking in terms of your mentality. You're super locked in. Your stress levels are really high. Your cortisol's spiking when you have these fights. And if they spike and they peak, the only place for them to go from there is straight downhill. And it can make us really sloppy. Our CNS, central nervous system, is fatigued. Our muscles are obviously damaged. We might have picked some injuries up from the fight. We might have took a few knocks to the head. The worst thing that we can do after this all happens is try and jump straight back into some high intense, high volume, high frequency training. You've got to remember as well, when you're prepping for a fight, you've usually cut quite a bit of weight. Professionals more than amateur fighters for sure, but amateur fighters still cut some weight. We're malnourished to a point. We're still dehydrated despite you doing day before weigh-ins if you're an MMA fighter, 90% of the time anyways. You got to remember, even though you've had that 24 plus hours to refuel, you're still not where you're at. There's no way you can rehydrate and refuel yourself fully to get to the same state that you were, let's say 3, 4 to 7 days out from the fight. That takes a considerably longer amount of time in order to get there. And that's what this protocol is going to be about. So I'm going to separate this into three categories. This isn't necessarily in order of importance. It's just what I had in mind when I was writing it down first. The first category is going to be your training and how you structure your training post-fight. The second one is going to be nutrition, very, very big and obvious one. How you want to be eating, the sort of stuff that you want to be taking in order to fuel yourself and get you back to where you are before prepping for the fight. And the last one's going to be your lifestyle, probably the biggest one when it comes to your mentality and how fresh you feel when you're coming back into training and prepping for another fight. Before anything, something that I really want to get out of the way. This is coming from an amateur fighter perspective. I am not professional, at least not yet. I'm hopefully preparing for my first professional bout by the end of the year, but this is all coming from the perspective of someone who's had 7 amateur fights. In my opinion, if you're an amateur MMA fighter, if you're an amateur boxer even, you should not be cutting that much weight. You don't get paid for this. You might get a few sponsors in, but the state that your career is not serious enough. Again, this is all my opinion, where you should be cutting silly, silly amounts of weight. It puts your body in such a compromised position. It completely tears you down. It can have really bad, long-lasting effects. In my opinion, if you're an amateur, if you're a young amateur fighter, try and fight as close to your natural weight as possible. It's really going to pay dividends by the end of your career, or potentially when you decide to transition into the professional sphere. And we'll talk a little bit about why in a second, but just a little preface, do not cut silly amounts of weight if you're an amateur fighter. All right, so the first one that we've got is your training. In my opinion, for the first 3 to 4 days post-fight, you should be prioritizing rest. Big mistake that people make, especially if they lose because their ego's a little bit hurt, is that they try and rush straight back into the gym and get back to training nearly full tilt a day or two post-fight. This is not a good idea. Like I said before, your central nervous system and your muscles are just going to be absolutely fried, which is going to make you so sloppy when you do decide to come back into training. As we know, fighting is very reactionary based. It's very mechanically based. And if our then things in our body are just weak or just not working properly post-fight, you cannot expect them reactions and then muscles to be working at the same level in order to operate at the same level as they were before the fight. And it's just going to make your training really suboptimal. It's not a good idea. So for the first 3 to 4 days, take some rest. Don't worry about the gym. That'll always be there. Get yourself out and just work on some active recovery. Go for some walks. Spend a nice day at the beach. All these types of things are going to be way better for you, both from a body point of view, but also from a mental point of view. Another really good point to make is 1 to 4 days post-fight, your body is going to be in its most vulnerable position. And this opens you up to things like catching the flu, illness, catching things like staph, which unfortunately I've been privy to, and also being really prone to injury. Like I said, your reactions aren't going to be too good. You're not going to be as fresh. So you're going to make more mistakes while you are training. Now, after the first 5 or 6 days, this is when I would say it's probably a good idea to return to training. But by no means we should be doing this full throttle 100%. The training that you should be returned to is just really like drill work and technique work. There's no point in going full throttle just yet. I would say around about the 7 to 10 day mark, that's when we can start returning back to maybe some light technical sparring, or some higher intensity drill work. That is, of course, if you haven't been in an absolute war during your fight and feel a little bit concussed. If you've been in a war, if your head is still not feeling like it's in the game, don't be afraid to take a little bit longer, 2 to 3 weeks before you do start returning to that hard sparring or just hard training in general. Something that I found has really helped me post-fight when I am returning back to training is that I prioritize my strength training in the gym. I really just fall in love with lifting weights. And there's a few reasons why this happens. I think the main reason is usually post-fight, because we're so drained, we lose a hell of a lot of strength. And I think it's really important that after we've had that little bit of rest, we try and regain what we've lost. Okay, a little bit of muscle's gone, a little bit of strength's gone, so we've got to try and build that back. So I do this big block where I prioritize the strength training. I get in the gym 3 to 4 times a week and I just start lifting weights. Now, this obviously helps you build back that strength, build back a little bit of size as well. But don't expect to walk into the weights room and start lifting the same weights as what you were before the fight. That's just not going to happen for the same reasons why you're not going to be able to train at your full capacity when you're on the mats. I'd say for the first 2 weeks of getting back into weight training, you should restrict yourself by around about 30%. Even if you feel like you can lift heavier, just bring it down by about 30% and just focus on moving your body just to avoid any potential injury. Another reason why it's also not a great idea to go super heavy is if you are potentially concussed after a fight. The worst thing you can do is get your blood pressure going up and up and up while you've got a really bad head. I've seen loads and loads of bad things happen because of this, and it can actually prolong or make your concussion even worse. So that's your training. Like I said, rest for the first 3 or 4 days, get back to some light technical drill work the 5 to 6 days, and then after a week to 2 weeks, really prioritize your strength training just to try and get back some of that size and strength that you definitely lost during the weight cut. Next one, we have nutrition. This one is really, really important. This is where I also feel like a lot of people out there go wrong when they're trying to bounce back from a big fight. You are probably going to want to have a blowout post fight, and that's absolutely fine. If you're hungry, if you've been waiting on that donut, if you've been waiting on that pizza for weeks and weeks and weeks, the first day or two, go ham, go crazy, have what you want. That'll give you that mental release. But don't let that go on for too long. I would say 1 to 2 days max of a blowout is more than enough. And then after that, we've got to make sure that we're on the ball with our nutrition just to help our body recover back to where we want it to be. So for the next 2 weeks, I would prioritize getting whole foods in you. Stay away from processed foods, stay away from drinking as well, alcohol. Even though I'd like a good drink myself, we've got to understand that a day is a poison. We've already talked about how your immune system's going to be low. We've already talked about how your body's going to be more subject to getting ill and injury. If you're then putting copious amounts of alcohol on top of that, then it's going to make all them things even worse, and your body's just going to sit with that poison for a little bit. So we're going to stick to whole foods. We're going to stick to um, we're going to stick to non-ultra processed foods as well. I would say that you want to make sure that you're getting a really good mix of carbohydrates, healthy fats, and protein in your body to help with recovery. With carbohydrates, you can mix it up. You can have your high GI fast releasing carbs like white rice, rice cakes, sourdough bread, white bread, just to help get that energy in you straight away. And your more starchy, low GI, slow releasing carbohydrates like brown rice, pasta, all them sorts of things that'll help slowly release more energy into your body as well. Again, we're staying away from processed foods. Calorie wise, I've actually found the most amount of success when I go just slightly higher than my maintenance. Maintenance being the weight that I weigh in 1 to 2 days post fight. So I'll usually be around 80 kilos, and you can work out what your maintenance calories is yourself. You just got to type in maintenance calorie or BMR calculator on Google, and it'll show up with some numbers. You'll have to put in your activity level as well. When I go slightly higher than my maintenance target, I'm usually getting more than enough food in to help supply my body with enough fuel to recover. Water is one of the most important things you need to be making sure that you're getting in you. You want to be having at least 3 liters a day. I know that seems like a lot. I know a lot of you water cut before having your fight, so you're probably sick of the fucking look of water. But honestly, water is super important. You are extremely dehydrated whenever you do cut weight. So we want to be making sure that we're having water, especially since we're having quite a lot of carbohydrates. If we're getting the carbs in, if we're getting the water in, our body's going to be able to retain that, and it just helps with recovery and just helps with your mental as well. Supplement wise, I guess going on from the back of the water, I sup up with about 10 grams of creatine per day. I load that up for the first 2 to 3 weeks. If you don't know, creatine is probably, I think it is the most researched supplement on the planet. If you don't know about it, do your research on it, but just a quick little summary. Creatine helps with water retention. That is obviously going to in turn help with your body's recovery, how it bounces back. But it actually has a load of cognitive benefits as well. It's great for the head. I found that if I ever have a hard sparring session and I get knocked, or let's say I've had a fight and I get knocked around a little bit and I've got a bad head, when I jump on the creatine, next 2 to 3 days, if I'm loading up with 10 grams, I feel 10 times better off it. It can leave you feeling sharper, it can leave you feeling more awake and ready to get at it. So creatine is something that I would 100% recommend. Not only that for a supplement, but I would also recommend you get some electrolytes in you. Again, we've drained ourselves with the water. Not only do we become dehydrated because of the loss of water, we become dehydrated because of the loss of electrolytes in our body. The little salts that are inside our body are then secreted out with the sweat. They're secreted out with all the water that we've lost. So we want to be able to get them back into us as soon as possible. And that's where electrolytes comes into it. I've got this big tub of electrolytes, and in the morning, post-fight for 2 or 3 weeks, I'm putting in 2 scoops of that. I'm putting in 2 5-gram scoops of my creatine, and it's just gonna leave you feeling a hell of a lot better after the fact when you do this. So electrolytes, creatine for supplementation. I haven't really tried anything else just yet. I've heard good things about magnesium because I know a lot of people struggle to sleep post-fight, but haven't used it myself, so I can't really have a whole lot of say on it. The last one I want to talk about is lifestyle. These are the things that you should be doing within your life, just outside of the gym as well, just to help you get back into the zone. As I talked about before, especially in MMA, where even the amateurs have these big long fight camps, you go through this long period of time where your stress is building up, your body is breaking down, you're getting hit from loads of different sides, you're a bit grumpy, you're a bit moody. What we do outside of the gym, outside of the mats, outside of our training is super important just to help with the mental side of things. Everybody knows that sort of feeling whenever you've accomplished something, you have this big dip. A lot of people can become a bit sad, a little bit depressed. And I don't mean depressed as in, oh, they're depressed. Depression is just an emotion that happens. And it happens because, we've went to here and we've came back down to here. So the biggest tips that I've got when it comes to your lifestyle, what you should be doing post-fight, first one is get outside, get amongst your friends, get amongst your family, see them as much as possible. They probably want to see you. You've went through a big fight camp. You've probably been a bit grumpy. You've probably shut yourself away from them for a little bit. So get amongst them. The more you're near the people that care about you and the people that you care about, the better you're going to feel for it. You're going to make yourself happy by doing it. Especially if you do things like activities, get amongst your friends and family. The second thing I would suggest, get back into your routine as quickly as possible. Now, I know I said that for the first few days post-fight, you want to be resting. You definitely want to be resting your body. Don't jump straight back into the gym. Don't jump straight back into your crazy training sessions. But after them first 3 or 4 days, try and get back to going on as normally as possible. Go back to work. Go back into the gym. Just start doing really, really light sessions. Do the things that you normally do at the times and days that you would normally do them. Give or take, maybe it's a little bit less because you're not fighting as much now. But we are creatures of habit. We are creatures of routine. If you take 2 to 3 weeks off where you're just not in your routine, it can take a hell of a lot longer of time for you to get back into the swing of things. It also helps your mind switch back on. It helps clear that mental fatigue away because you're just going on as normal and things just become automatic again. Some things that I really like to do post-fight is journal. I'll sit down maybe a few days after my fight and I'll just write down what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, how the fight went. Anything that's on my mind, I'll just start writing it down. Mental fatigue is very real post-fight, and your mind can be a big jungle of just shit bouncing around all the time. If you write stuff down, you'll have a better picture of what you're actually feeling at that point. You'll be able to really just have an outlet for all these thoughts. This brings me nicely onto the last thing I want to talk about, and this especially goes for a lot of the younger amateur fighters out there, and that is to have some kind of off season away from fighting. And what I mean by that is you can still be in the gym training, but it's some kind of period of time, whether that be a few months to half a year, where you're not training in the gym as much, you're not prepping for a fight, you're taking that level of it away from yourself and you're working on other things outside of fighting. This can be the stuff like I said before, you can try and find other hobbies and interests that you invest your time into, have a bit of a holiday, have a bit of recovery, a bit of a reset. And this is because fighting's not going anywhere, especially if you're young. Okay, you can always jump back in the gym and you can start training for a fight. But it's so important to your mental and to your physical as well to have a little bit of time where you're not taking it as seriously. You're working on them other things. And this also goes for stuff like being able to build your strength, build your fitness, and other attributes of fitness outside of fighting. When we're always training for fights, we're putting our bodies through the ringer. We're not giving our bodies enough time or enough fuel to build. Let's talk about strength and muscle mass, for example. Big mistake I see a lot of younger fighters doing, especially younger amateur boxers who are fighting every week, is that you'll find that they never actually get a chance to grow into their bodies. They're always a little bit behind in terms of physical development. And that's because they're always in this state of high stress, high cortisol, not enough food, not enough fuel to help them grow because they're always trying to stick to a certain weight range, and they won't be working on any strength training because they're afraid they're going to build too much muscle. And this just stunts their growth a little bit. And a funny thing that you end up seeing with these young amateur boxers, these young amateur fighters, is that when they do eventually stop fighting, when they do eventually have a little bit of a breather, they suddenly blow up in size. They get huge. A lot of them get really, really fat. And that's because they've never had that chance to properly build their body. They end up having this weird skinny fat physique. And this can be avoided if you just take that time, take that off season to allow yourself to grow into your body. Anyways, everybody, that is the video for today. I appreciate you all watching. I'm getting a lot better at talking in front of the camera. I still need to write notes. I still need to make little cuts because I fumble my words or just get off on a bit of a trail and start rambling on. But it is getting better. That is the main thing. Give this video a like. Give it a bit of a subscribe as well if you fancy it. Follow the journey. I said before, but I'm now prepping for my first professional fight. We're looking at October, just waiting for a name to come back. If not October, then probably next year for my first professional fight, which is exciting. I'll see you all later.